Going live now.
I call this meeting to order. Mr. Mayor, please call roll.
Mr. Rivers?
Here.
Ms. Knapp?
Here.
Ms. Taranto?
Here.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Do we have any agenda changes?
I have two under new business. Request to the county prosecutor's office and discussion regarding minutes.
The request of the county prosecutor's office?
Yeah. Is that under new business? Yes, please.
Review with minutes?
Discussion regarding minutes, yes. Also under new business? Yes. B.
Do we have any other changes?
I do not.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I believe there's a addition of a resolution of necessity for the park and road levy. Board's consideration.
Okay.
That's all I show.
Where would you like to? Or resolution?
If the board wishes, we could start out with that.
Okay.
Get it right out of the way.
Yep.
Since that is a crucial component to township business.
Thanks for knocking that out, Mike.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm not sure if Mr. Belcastro will be here this evening.
Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Okay, well then,
Just real quick, is that gas aggregation on the agenda? I don't think it is, correct? And is
It is
that
not.
something that we even want, should we talk about it?
If the board wishes to discuss that, yes, absolutely. There was some information shared in regards to that, as recent as today.
Why don't we just add that then under new business and chat about it a little bit later?
If I could, trustees, I'd suggest maybe we move that way far down because I would assume you're going to want to hear from Mr. Belcastro before you accept the proposed assignment.
Well, I don't think he's coming. I think we're just, I'm curious what these two think about it.
No, that's absolutely
That's
fine.
all. I just
I'm
kind of
just
want
saying, you're going to face a conundrum here.
to. Okay. Yeah, I think he's just requesting that we add it to the ballot. Correct. Right. But I'm not even sure how many people have Columbia. Yeah, I think he told me like he thinks 4,500.
anything else? Okay. So let's go first here with the, we discussed with the levies coming up. I don't know, Mike, if you want to catch us up to speed?
Absolutely. The resolutions of necessity have been drafted. As you know, these are a preliminary step. You need to make an application to the, well, first of all, you find that it is necessary that there be the levy, the tax. But secondly, you're required to go to the county auditor and have a certification from that office as to what will be generated by the proposed millage. And this is a step they added some years back now. It's relatively new in March of time. But when you receive that, it then comes back to the board, you consider it, and then if you determine to proceed, we'll have a second round of resolutions. They not called resolutions to proceed. And that will be the one that will actually put it on the ballot. This is a preliminary step, although the finding of necessity is obviously important. Beyond that, this is, the Board of Elections has worked out a form they want us to use. That's why it's a little different. Fire levy looked remarkably like it last year. But I think that standardization will serve the whole county well. There's some excitement with that. But they're both on renewal. They're both renewals. They're the same millage. They're renewal levies. That means there'll be no increase. Impact will continue. The first year of collection, the first tax year that will be levied is 2019. That will generate funds in 2020 when those taxes actually get paid. So they're both renewals, one for 1 mil for the park and 0.5 mils for the roads. If there are any questions, I'd like to answer.
I'm fine with this. We've discussed the budget and, we need this to go forward and pay for our parks.
We fine in moving forward?
Yes, with those.
I make the adoption of the following resolution, whereas the amount of taxes that will be raised within the 10 mil limitation will be insufficient to provide for the necessary requirements for Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, and whereas it is necessary to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation, and whereas the levy would be for the purpose of parks and recreational purposes, said purposes being authorized by RC 5705.19H, and whereas a resolution declaring the necessity of levying a renewal tax pursuant to RC 5705.19 outside the 10 mil limitation must be approved and certified to the Delaware County Auditor in order to permit the board to consider the levy of such a tax, and must request that the auditor certify to the board the total current tax valuation of the township and the number of mills required to generate a specified amount of revenue or the dollar amount of revenue that will be generated by a specified number of mills. Now therefore be it resolved by the board, at least 2/3 of all members of the board concerning as follows. 1. The amount of taxes that will be raised within the 10 mil limitation will be insufficient to provide for the necessary requirements of the township. 2. It is necessary to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation. 3. Pursuant to RC 5705.03B1, the purpose of the tax is as follows. Parks and recreational purposes. B. Renewal levy, 0 increase, 0 decrease. Current levy rate, 1 mil. Amount proposed increase, decrease, 0 mil. Total proposed levy rate, 1 mil. C. The sections of the revised code authorizing submission of the question of the tax are RC 5705.03, 5705.191, and 5705.25, and the following RC 5705.19H. D. The term of the tax is as follows in years or continuing 3 years. E. The territory where the tax is to be levied is as follows upon the entire territory of the township. F. The date of the election at which the question of the tax shall appear on the ballot is as follows. November 5th, 2019. G. The territory where the ballot measure is to be submitted is as follows. Upon the entire territory of the township. H. The tax will be first levied and collected as follows. The tax year in which the tax will be first levied is 2019. The calendar year in which the tax will first be collected is 2020. The township has territory in Delaware County and each of the following listed counties. Delaware County only. Pursuant to RC 5705.03B1, the fiscal officer is hereby directed to certify a copy of this resolution to the auditor. The board hereby requests that the auditor certify to this board the following. A. The total current tax valuation of the township. B. The number of mills required to generate the following amount of revenue. Or C. The current amount of revenue that will be generated by the levy of the following mills, 1 mil.
Excuse me, as to be,
Scratch that.
yeah, that would be a scratch. There are 2 ways you can do it, and we're not doing it that way, right?
I saw something.
No, I apologize.
Sorry. 5, all formal actions of this board concerning or relating to the passage of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of the board, and all deliberations of this board and any of its committees that result in such formal action were meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including RC 121.22. This resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption.
Second.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Tranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Okay, the second is the road levy. I make the adoption of the following resolution. Whereas the amount of taxes that will be raised within the 10 mil limitation will be insufficient to provide the necessary requirements of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio. And whereas it is necessary to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation, and whereas the levy will be for the purpose of general construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, and repair of streets, roads, and bridges, said purposes being authorized by RC 5705.19G, and whereas the resolution declaring the necessity of levying a renewal tax pursuant to RC 5705.19 outside the 10 mil limitation must be approved and certified to the Delaware County Auditor. In order to permit the board to consider the levy of such a tax, it must request that the auditor certify to the board the total current tax valuation of the township, the number of mills required to generate a specified amount of revenue, or the dollar amount of revenue that would be generated by a specified number of mills. Now therefore be it resolved by the board, at least 2/3 of all the members of the board concurring as follows. 1, the amount of taxes that will be raised within the 10 mil limitation be insufficient to provide for the necessary requirements of the township. 2, it is necessary to levy a tax in excess of the 10 mil limitation. 3, pursuant to RC 5705.03B1. A, the purpose of the tax is as follows. General construction, reconstruction, resurfacing, and repair of streets, roads, and bridges. B, renewal levy, 0 increase, 0 decrease, current levy rate, 0.5 mil. Amount proposed increase, decrease, 0 mil. Proposed levy rate, 0.5 mil. C, the sections of the revised code authorizing submission to the question of the tax are RC 5705.03, 5705.191, and 5705.25, and the following 5705.19G. The term of the tax is as follows in years or continuing. 3 years. E, the territory where the tax is to be levied is as follows upon the entire territory of the township. F, the date of the election at which the question of the tax shall appear on the ballot is as follows: November 5th, 2019. G, the territory where the ballot measure is to be submitted is as follows upon the entire territory of the township. H, the tax will be first levied and collected as follows. The tax year in which the tax will be first to be levied is 2019. The calendar year in which the tax will be first collected is 2020. The township has territory in Delaware County, each of the following listed counties, Delaware County only. Pursuant to RC 5705.03B1, the fiscal officer is hereby directed to certify a copy of this resolution to the auditor. The board hereby requests that the auditor certify to this board the following. A, the total current tax valuation of the township. And C, the dollar amount of revenue that will be generated by the levy of the following mills, 0.5 mil. All formal actions of this board concerning and relating to the passage of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of the board, and all deliberations of this board and any of its committees that result in such formal action were meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including RC 121.22. This resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption.
Second.
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Tranto?
Yes.
Anything else to add as in regards to the levies?
I have nothing.
Okay, I'll open it, next on the agenda, public comments. Do we have any comments regarding the items that are not on the agenda this evening?
Something to share with you. Sure. Jen Kennedy with the Delaware General Health District, and I just wanted to leave you all with a copy of the age-friendly assessment. This was something that we have been working on since last fall. We collected data from residents age 55 and older to look at a couple different domains, such as outdoor public spaces, community and health services, civic participation, social inclusion. We worked on this project with SourceCoin, and so the purpose was to collect the data, And then now work on a couple different work groups around there. There's 8 domains. And so we have developed work groups that source points go in and run and work on putting together a strategic plan. The big one that was in here that you'll see is around affordable housing. So that's definitely a topic, that source point, and it's within our community health improvement plan also, so we're pretty excited. We've actually had a housing coalition that's met 3 times already, and they're developing a plan. So we have lots of plans, lots of data, so hopefully you'll see more in the future from this. So I'll just leave you guys with a copy of this. And read it whenever you have a chance.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. All right. We'll move to approval of minutes. First is our minutes from April 18th, 2019 special trustee meeting.
As you know, I presented this the first time. The one addition was Mr. Bodnar added, I wanted a sentence added, and I thought it was a good idea, so the first time it was presented, it was that way, and the board didn't want to approve it. So there was some discussion that there was some sort of levity or joking going on. So after listening to the tapes or the recordings over and over, I presented the second version, which basically acknowledged there was chuckling at the end of the sentence. The board didn't want to approve it. Spent a long time on the phone with Mr. Fowler talking about it. And it's the duty of the fiscal officer to record decisions that are made and information that helps the reader to understand the rationale for the decisions. The section in question was a question that I happened to ask, trying to understand at that point why 2 resolutions had just been passed. And there was only one answer given. It was given by Mr. Bodnar, and it's reported in the minutes verbatim. So Mr. Fowler said that, well, the only other thing he can think of is to provide another option, which is the third option here, which is simply to refer the reader to the recordings of the meeting, giving them the time that the discussion would start and stop, both on the video and audio. So that's what I've done.
Which version is that?
This is the third. There should be 3 cents. It's the third one. I'm sorry they didn't get labeled, but it's the third one.
So I got 3 copies, but they all look like they're the same.
No, I'm sorry, they didn't get labeled. I thought they would, but they didn't. If you look at the third copy and look at page 2, top of page 2, after the question that I asked, it then says, please refer to the audio or video recordings of this meeting for the responses to this question. Approximate starting point is at 21 minutes and the recording ending.
Where's this at? On what page? Page 2
There
at
were
the top?
3.
Page 2 at the top?
Yeah, there were 3. There were 3 different versions, and if you look at the third one,
one. Okay, because I have 3 sets of the same exact 7 minutes.
I think the second page is different.
Of one of them? What are the other 2 copies? This one?
sorry, I
This
didn't-
was the first one in my box. Unless they shuffled it. Should have been labeled.
didn't get labeled. This is what Mr. Fowler suggested. That way, the reader can then go to the audio or the video and hear exactly what he said and draw their own.
Well, I still believe that much of the conversation that Trustee Trainer and I, many of our points were left out of this set of
I have
minutes.
asked twice for changes to be recommended. Ms. Tranto at one time recommended leaving the whole thing out because it was all a joke. Well, my question wasn't a joke, and at least the first part of Mr. Bodner's answer wasn't a joke. It was his answer. So if you don't want to approve, fine. If you want me to take the question out, then I will not be able to sign the minutes and attest to their accuracy.
But yeah, there are many statements that were actually made by Trustee Trano and I that were left out of there. Many of our concerns.
I asked for those and I have gotten nothing.
Well, like I said, I don't feel comfortable
Okay?
putting my own version of things into the minutes. So I was hoping that Mary Ann would
Well, no, wait a minute.
do that.
Well, we actually asked if we would just have Mary Ann
Yeah.
redo them, and you did not do that.
Yeah, we specifically asked for that.
She has listened to these minutes.
But did she has she redone any of these? Because that's what we asked, because we thought she would be fair and neutral. I did not feel comfortable doing my own version.
Because I'm
Mary Ann reviewed it.
because I'm not fair. So I'll tell you what, why don't we just pass them again, and I'll have Mary Ann look at it, listen to them again, and we'll do them again. This time, please submit anything that you think needs to be included that was not included. I'm asking you to submit what you want to be included. You keep saying things were left out.
We just want Mary Ann to listen and do her fair interpretation of any additional points that were made by us that were left out. Because the points that we made were not, all of them were not in here, the most important ones.
I think they were.
Oh, I
Trustee
disagree.
Trano, can you submit anything you'd like to add or change?
I'm sorry?
Is that okay with you?
Well, I actually already did, but he didn't do the one thing that we asked him to do.
I can't take the whole statement
What's the
out.
one
It was
thing?
set.
Has Mary Ann reviewed the minutes? Did Mary Ann review the recording of the
She
minutes?
has listened to them. She and I have discussed them. I didn't ask her to specifically.
I guess you have to kind of
Why
be
don't you pass this down? This came out of the Ohio Township handbook.
you also should be consistent, like you say, because you said it, it has to be in the minutes. But if you flip through these other minutes, you look
No.
at Bill, it just says,
Right.
Mr. Cohen made a statement, period. That was it.
And that's usually fine.
So you didn't include anything that he had talked about.
Right.
I'm not trying to make a big deal out of this. I just,
I'm doing
that was
them-
one set of minutes that
I'm
were.
doing the minutes the way the attorneys have told me they need to.
Well, we disagree because there were specific statements that you included in here and you did not include our specific statements.
Well, then give me the statements you want included, please.
Well, but there were a lot of statements, so then I would end up having more of my statements made and less of yours, and that would not be fair. That's why we asked that Mary Ann take a look at it.
I know this was asked to be added to the agenda, so I feel like since we're on minutes, can we just bump this up from what our discussion was gonna be on minutes, since we're already discussing this now? I mean, I think in the past with the minutes, we had a lot of stuff inserted in as far as quotes and conversations that were really unnecessary. So I think we've been able to get the minutes into a better place, so more clear and,
I don't remember there ever being any issues with the minutes over the years.
Right.
Early on, and then Mary Ann, she got some specific direction from the prosecutor's office, and her minutes have been great.
Yeah, they
right,
have
but
been
typically
really good.
minutes, like, as far as the back end, is
You
more of
just
a
said like
summary.
unnecessary quotes and
Well,
stuff.
no, I
don't
mean,
know what
as
you're
far
talking
as
about.
usually the minutes are more of a summary than versus a word for word conversation back and forth. Like in the past, you had a lot of additional things in there.
When was
weren't
that?
necessary.
When, I don't recall
Yeah, I don't
word for
recall
word for
What-
years.
But if you
Um,
look at his minutes, they're word for word,
Exactly.
and they're usually
No.
his quotes.
Yeah,
So-
they're including other quotes, though.
When I got here, the minutes were being transcribed verbatim from the tapes. It took-
That's not true.
That
That's
is
not-
true.
That's
It-
absolutely false. That's
it is
absolutely
true.
false. No, there were some, maybe
It
a few
is
quotes.
true, Mary Ann told me it took her 11, 12,
They were
13
not
hours
verbatim.
to do one meeting. Do you want me to go get them?
They were not
You want
verbatim.
me to?
Are you
Is there-
talking about when
They
she
were
first
verbatim.
started doing
It was
minutes,
years ago.
or?
I'm talking about when I got here.
Oh, no.
No, definitely not.
I can
No.
show them.
That's the first thing I had to change. I said,
No.
Mary Ann, you don't have to do that anymore.
They were not verbatim. They were probably more detailed, but they were absolutely not verbatim. They would have been dozens of
You
pages
have
long.
you have her transcribing every word that the public said about different things, verbatim, pages and pages. And in January, you went back and had them add some stuff to
Mm-hmm.
December because you wanted more in it. So I'm sorry.
Yeah, actually, I remember that being brought when we first.
Right, but you included
I have-
specific quotes in
I have
here.
Let me change.
You
I
included,
have cut them
they're
down
just
based,
arbitrary.
based upon instructions that I've received from the prosecutor's office.
Well, do you have a problem with asking Mary Ann to take another look at them,
No.
adding some things? Why is there an objection to that? Because I think
There is
you
no
kind of-
objection to it. I've already done that.
You've asked
She and I
her,
talked about
so you have specifically asked her
it.
to
Not in the
redo.
last week, but she and I talked about it.
And what was the result? Where are her minutes that she did that reflect that? After you asked her to do that?
I believe you said she reviewed it with you, right?
But where we wanted her to review them and do a new version with a few more
It
extra
doesn't matter what
points.
I say, because you'll say it's wrong, so.
Wes, that's a very
I-
arbitrary statement. Let's just keep it
No.
professional here. Well, my point is, Trustee Torino and I think would like Marion to take a look at the minutes and add a few more points and give them to the rest of the trustees, even if it's a few more of the both of your points. But I don't think that we think they're complete. And what we asked you to have Marion do is redo that section, and that has not been done.
And to the point, I guess, from where they were and where they're at now, which is a good example was just brought up. One of the first meetings for me as a board member, we were asked to go back and, I was asked to go back and change minutes and add more, and it was a lot of back and forth. And really, there was a lot of it that was just unnecessary, I thought. And we were going back and forth as far as who exactly said what. When you have these extended back and forth conversations, the minutes should be more of a summary
Yeah.
versus word for word.
Yes, we know
Of
that.
what
I
went back
agree.
and forth.
But they were not verbatim at that time. They were long.
What
but
was,
they were
I know
not
what was
verbatim.
changed was verbatim.
There were
They were not
30
And that was one of the
There were
last
30
meetings here,
pages long on this now.
2017.
But they were
If
still
it
not
was a,
verbatim.
if it was a 4-hour meeting, I can imagine that it would be.
Because she
Exactly.
was told to transcribe every word that was
But
said.
I
that's
think,
not
I
true.
think you misunderstood something she said. I really do. I would ask her again tomorrow.
Yeah.
There has to be a misunderstanding.
There's more detail, but they definitely, a verbatim would be hundreds of pages
Yeah.
verbatim. I've seen court reporting transcripts and it's like 60 pages.
That's what they do for the zoning, I think.
Yeah, and there are dozens of pages, so it wasn't verbatim, so.
Okay, I'm wrong.
Well, I think the minutes haven't, like I
I think you
said,
just misunderstood it. I really do.
I think the minutes have improved from where they were.
Yeah.
Can we just,
But just
Well,
have
ask-
Marianne listen to them and redo the section, please.
and if you have anything you'd like to change or add, can we please submit that?
We're not doing that, we're having Marianne going to give us the version and then we'll take a look at it, correct?
Well, I thought she'd already reviewed
No,
these.
we just, maybe you weren't listening, but we just discussed that Marianne reviewed it. She did not redo a version of the minutes like we asked her to. That did not happen.
Correct.
She reviewed it.
But
She already reviewed it.
she reviewed it. We're asking her to do a new version that is fair to all parties. Re-listen to it and do her own version. That was the agreement we just came to.
So you want her to go back and redo her own version of the minutes?
Yeah.
No, actually, a lot of our Wes's version, he redid the minutes himself.
Well, no, but she reviewed them with you, right? Didn't she?
He actually went in and changed
He
paragraphs.
changed it himself. She did not do this set of minutes. This is his doing. We'd
Well,
like
can-
Marianne, who's neutral, to go through and say, hey, I'm upon looking at this again, we're gonna
Okay.
add a few things, because the bottom line is, she did her first version, and then Mr. Mayor went back and added additional quotes to it after she was done.
Can we have a revised version go out and take a look? If you have anything to change, that way when we come to our next meeting,
Yeah.
we can make sure that we get these
That's what we've been
approved.
waiting for several meetings, that would have been taken care of. if that had
Trustee
been
Turner,
done.
is that?
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, it's probably not my place to, but I feel an urging to share that we videotape the meetings, we're now streaming the meetings live, and we audio tape the meetings as well. And on top of all that, we do a paper transcribed version of the meeting as well. So, I mean, there's ample opportunity for anyone and everyone, as they are all public records, to view any and all portions of any of the meetings that the trustees have.
Yeah.
So I would say to the board, just as a recommendation, the lowly voice of your administrator, that maybe concentration in the other areas may be of more value than on the written word.
Yeah, thank you.
May 20th, 2019 regular trustee meeting. Do we have any changes?
I have none.
Second?
Or, are we doing them separate, each motion separate? Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the May 20th, 2019 regular trustee meeting minutes as presented.
Second.
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Mr. Anton,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp,
Yes.
Do you have any changes to the May 24th special trustee meeting?
No.
I don't have any changes to any of them.
Yeah, I have no changes either.
I make the motion to approve the May 24th, 2019 special trustee meeting minutes as presented.
Second?
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp,
Yes.
Mr. Anton.
Yes.
Make the motion to approve the June 3rd, 2019 regular trustee meeting minutes as presented.
Second?
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp,
Yes.
Mr. Anton.
Yes.
Make the motion to approve the June 10th, 2019 special trustee meeting minutes as presented.
Second?
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Mr. Franco,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp,
Yes.
Zoning report. Bonnie's not here tonight. Is Mr. Bernard?
Yes, Ms. Bunny had another engagement this evening. She did share her report. It's on file should anybody wish to see it at Township Hall. Each member of the trustees, the board of trustees has a copy of it all.
Thank you. Maintenance report, Mr. Callen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I have 5 items of business this evening for maintenance and maintenance part. First, I have the resolution asking you to authorize for the issuance of a purchase order for environmental trenching. This is a storm pipe that has collapsed over the last year, so I understand. It's located on North Road, just north of the soccer field. The pipe collapsed, it's backwater up into the neighboring yard. There's a small pond there now, so especially with all this recent water. So we'd like to get that repaired, and I appreciate your consideration of that. The second item I have, if you want me to continue to,
Yes, please.
is approving a contract with George J. Eigel and Company for the Green Meadows and Highfield Drive Improvement Project. And this was all sent to me by the county, folks at the county. I included a transmittal letter, a copy of liability insurance, the contractor's certificate of employee's right to pay compensation, and a copy of the contract. And so I'm asking you for your consideration of that. Contract, by the way, is only 2 pages. I was surprised at that. That's what they sent. And that document will also need to be signed before we leave tonight, if that's doable. The third item I have is to consider approval of acceptance of a Delaware County engineer's construction cost estimate. And this is to be included with the Ohio Public Works Commission 2020 road overlay grant application. And the streets are Commerce Court, Rapids Way, North Central Drive, and Orange Point Drive. Those streets were recommended by the county officials for repaving. That's why we selected them for this grant opportunity. And I included with it some emails about the selection. It said, they're just some of the older streets in the township. They're very heavily used. We recommended that's what we applied.
So the OPWC is paying $303,000?
Yes, I believe that's what the request was. Yes.
So we're going after the grant, or we have been awarded the
No, this is for
$303,000?
the application.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, the OPWC would be in for 300,000 plus.
Out of the 4.
This document also needs signed if you do approve this evening. My next item, authorize the issuance of a then and now purchase order to John Robin Associates. These are the folks that are doing our right-of-way acquisition on Orange Road Phase 2 project. This purchase order is about a month old. Somehow it just got misplaced, and I take all full responsibility for that. I apologize for that. But nonetheless, it does need approved. And I also need to have the purchase order signed if you do approve it. So.
I think I just did. It was in the folder up front.
I have like 3 other ones up
Okay.
there for John Robbins. So.
Okay.
Yep. Lastly, we'll move on to the parks report. Do you want me to hold that?
Well, do we have any questions?
I don't.
Items?
When will we be notified of the OPWC?
That's usually like July.
Is it July?
I think the beginning of July.
Okay.
Next year, 2020.
Okay. I have no further questions.
I make the motion to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Environmental Trenching Incorporated, the amount of $7,000 for North Road drain pipe installation.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Samantha?
Yes.
I make a motion, whereas the Orange Township Board of Trustees has found necessity for and has approved project BEL-TR 409-0.28 Green Meadows Drive and High Hill Drive improvements pursuant to resolution 14-332, and whereas the board approved the release of an invitation to bid for the project pursuant to resolution 19-172, and whereas George J. Eigel and Company Incorporated submitted a winning bid for the project, and whereas the board desires to enter into a contract with Eigel pursuant to the bid to construct the project. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees for Orange Township, Section 1, the board hereby approves the attached contract with Eigel to perform all work required for the construction of the project pursuant to terms and conditions of the contract and the related bid documents. Section 2, the board authorizes payment to Eigel pursuant to the terms of the contract. Section 3, all formal actions of this board concerning and relating to passage of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of the board and all deliberations of this board and of any of its committees that result in such formal action were meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including RC 121.22. Section 4, this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Tarantula?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
I make the motion to approve and accept the Delaware County Engineers construction cost estimate for improvements Commerce Court, Graphics Way, North Central Drive, and Orange Point Drive.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Tarantula?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Make the motion to authorize the issuance of a then and now purchase order to Dunrob and Associates LLC in the amount of $13,245 for Orange Road Phase 2 right-of-way acquisition.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Tarantula?
Yes.
Well, thank you for that. Appreciate it. I'll move on to the park report real quick. I only have one item for consideration, and it's a then and now purchase order for Rec Desk LLC. It's our annual fee, $3,900. And I can tell you, Mr. Mayor, he put together a training session with a lot. There must have been 12 folks came down from the swimming pool. I was there as the mayor. We had it in the Thompson room. Man, it was really good, that Rec Desk program. We're really going to focus on that this fall, so we'll have it ready to go in spring. That thing's going to be amazing. There's a lot of things we can do with that program.
Yeah,
I
I've heard
learned a
it's
lot.
really
I think,
useful.
everybody can pull learn a lot. It's really
It's supposed to be very good program.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. Are any questions? That's all I have.
I make the motion to authorize the issuance of a purchase order to Rec Desk LLC in the amount of $3,900 for 1 year subscription.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Tarantula?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Noble, Public Safety Report.
Good evening. Items A and B, reimbursement of sick leave hours due to individuals being on injury leave. This is for the collective bargaining agreement. This is what you've done in the past, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I know Amy can speak more to it, but these hours have been confirmed. Item C, appointing Toby Johnson as full-time firefighter paramedic effective June 19th. And then item B would be to accept his resignation as a part-time firefighter effective June 18th. And that would be to regretfully accept his resignation. And then item E would also be to regretfully accept the resignation of full-time firefighter paramedic now. He's been picked up by another and that would be effective June 25th, 2019. And then finally, item F would be to accept a gift card partner, this gift card at the amount of $75 one time, and we will evaluate that in the process. So those are the items that I have for you this evening.
Who donated the gift card?
That was anonymous.
Anonymous.
You know all the hours that were donated to firefighters that passed away?
Yes.
Do we need to officially send those hours back to the prospective firefighter that donated them?
I believe per the contract, those hours were donated, and I believe they were utilized.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay,
So there's nothing.
okay, all right. Something that had crossed my mind.
I make a motion to authorize reimbursement of 552 hours of sick leave due to injury for Ryan Spires.
Second?
Ms. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes?
Ms. Trento?
Yes.
Make a motion to authorize the reimbursement of 24 hours of sick leave due to injury for Rachel Peters.
Second?
Ms. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Trento? I'm sorry, Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Trento?
Yes.
Move the adoption of the following resolution. Be it resolved that Cody Johnson is appointed to the non-exempt full-time bargaining agreement position of firefighter paramedic effective June 19, 2019. Be it further resolved that this appointment is probationary in accordance with section 4.1 of the current collective bargaining agreement between the township and the Orange Township Professional Firefighters IAFF Local 3816. Be it further resolved that during the probationary period, the compensation for this position shall be as provided for probationary firefighter paramedic in the current collective bargaining agreement between the township and the Orange Township Professional Firefighters IAFF Local 3816. With paychecks to be issued based on a 14-day pay period. Be it further resolved that the probationary period is successfully completed, compensation for this position shall be as provided for a firefighter paramedic in the current collective bargaining agreement between the township and the Orange Township Professional Firefighters IAFF Local 3816 with paychecks to be issued based on a 14-day pay period. Be it further resolved that compensation for this position shall also include standard employee benefits package provided for all full-time union personnel and resolutions of the board, the Orange Township trustees, and or the current collective bargaining agreement between the Orange Township and Orange Township Professional Firefighters IAFF Local 3816. Be it further resolved that this appointment is contingent upon the satisfactory completion by Cody Johnson of a drug screen, physical examination, background investigation, and PRAGCO assessment.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Trento?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Make the motion to accept the resignation of firefighter EMT Cody Johnson effective June 18, 2019.
Second?
I'm sorry. I motion to accept the resignation of part-time firefighter EMT Cody Johnson effective June 18, 2019.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Trento?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Make a motion to accept the resignation of firefighter paramedic Kevin McDowell effective June 25th, 2019.
So we add regretfully in there.
I regret that.
Regretfully. Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Trento?
Yes.
And make a motion to accept a donation in the form of a gift card for $75.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Trento?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Fiscal officer report, Mr. Mayor.
The only thing I have is a in and out purchase order for salt and pretty self-explanatory at the bottom of 15. Actually, if you have any questions, Mr. Pound could probably answer them.
Any questions?
I have no questions.
I make a motion to authorize the issuance of a then and now purchase order to Delaware County Engineer at the amount of $15,514.27 for salt.
Second?
Ms. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Trento?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes. I was me that seconded it.
Sorry.
Administrative report, Mr. Bonar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item of discussion would be for the fire chief's position description, and I'd like to turn this over to the chief.
Chief Noble and I have been working on updating the position description, so it's in the current format, and it has all the necessary essential job functions, and it also references the Ohio Revised Code, since fire chief is referenced the new hire rise code, we wanted to make sure that was in there as well. We worked with Mike, he provided, some help and some suggestions, we put this together, and then as soon as we get this one approved, and we have a couple more that we will be presenting to the board as well for the fire department, for your consideration for approval as well.
So there's no real changes to the position, it's just updating it and keeping it current, correct?
Correct.
And it would be the same pay rate, everything else, correct? Right.
No adjustment to that, this is just updating the position description. As Amanda said, the yellow is in the old format, this is bringing it to a new format, putting it under the Ohio Revised Code. And, we're trying to get a lot of our position descriptions updated, especially in the fire department as well, to more available.
I know she's been working on these descriptions for a few years now.
Does the board have any questions?
I have no further questions.
Thank you.
I make the adoption of the following resolution, whereas the board has been presented a position description for the employment position of fire chief, and whereas it is deemed advisable to accept and adopt the same, now therefore be it resolved that 1, fire chief position description presented to the board in dated version 06/10/2019 is hereby approved and accepted. An employee in such a position shall henceforth serve under the terms and provisions stated therein and have the indicated qualifications, requirements, job functions, knowledge, skills, abilities, and responsibilities. 2, the aforementioned description is presented for informational purposes only and can be changed at any time by the board, with or without notice. 3, neither the aforementioned description nor this resolution are an employment contract, express or implied. An employee in this position is appointed pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 505.38 and is subject to removal as provided therein. Conversely, the employee can terminate the employment relationship at any time for any reason or no reason, subject to provisions, personnel policies and procedures manual of the board, and other board resolutions. 4, no representative of Orange Township has the authority to enter into an agreement with any employee that is contrary to the foregoing. 5, unless otherwise provided by the board, appointment in such a position shall be contingent upon the applicant's satisfactory completion of physical examination, drug screen, background investigation, and practical assessment. 6, any portions of prior resolutions of the board inconsistent with this resolution are hereby repealed and have no further force or effect.
Second?
Ms. Bridger?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. Randall?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, the next two items I have is just an update. The last Friday at 3 o'clock, or excuse me, the Friday before last, at 3 o'clock, we accepted the proposals for the statement of qualifications for the Veterans Memorial Project. There were 2 submissions, one by Edge Planning out of Columbus and one by Garmin Miller and Associates, which is out of Dublin. We'll soon be engaging in the ranking process that's dictated through the Ohio Revised Code. The next item I have is the electrical, the change of assignment in our agreement for electrical aggregation service provider. Many residents are receiving letters. I received one today from Capital Energy stating that they were relinquishing service and it was being turned over to Constellation Energy. And so residents are getting this letter as of, like I say, actually mine dated the 13th, and this is a formalization of the act to allow the aggregation consultant, which is Trebell, and the agreement that we have through Trebell for electrical service with Capital to allow them to shift it over to Constellation. Our research indicates that Constellation is actually better positioned than Capital. There's been no complaints with Capital whatsoever. They're doing a restructuring of their business model, and so out of that, they need to find another supplier, and they're going to somebody that's actually got a better recommendation, a longer term of experience than they had in that industry. So there is a resolution for your consideration.
Also, there's some excitement about this, of course, but I spoke with Steve Tucker, who's the attorney for Capital, as to what they actually need from us. You remember when they first began this effort, I think it's in March. It was more or less, they want a kind of a contractual change modification that the board did not agree with. And now we know who, or you know who, you're actually going to be assigned to. And as part of that transaction, they do need your consent and to the assignment, and also your acknowledgement that the agreement does remain in fact obligated to this board. So that's the only two things that this resolution does. All the other things you might have heard about are gone. Hopefully.
So is this the correct resolution?
No.
Oh, so that's the one that took place first? As long as I get
This is
you sure?
yeah. Yes.
I make the adoption of the following resolution, whereas Capital Energy LLC in Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, executed a contract title agreement to provide competitive retail electric service to a governmental aggregation program by and between Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, and Capital Energy LLC, which was effective on November 7th, 2017. And whereas Orange Township has been advised by Capital of its assignment of such agreement to Constellation New Energy Incorporated, and whereas Capital has requested Orange Township to acknowledge that the agreement remains in place and in full force and effect, and whereas Orange Township desires to express its consent to such assignment. Now therefore be it resolved that the Board of Township Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, consents to the assignment of the agreement by Capital. Constellation acknowledges that the agreement remains in place and in full force and effect. Be it further resolved that Township Fiscal Officer shall certify a copy of this resolution to Capital at his earliest convenience.
Second?
Mr. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Franco?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
Members of the board, the next item is a retention of legal counsel by Wiles, and then after that is a net and now purchase agreement, or purchase order, excuse me, for $115,376 for property and casualty insurance coverage.
Mr. Chairman, maybe I should take it off. In preparation for the Records Commission meeting, I was looking through some act resolutions. I happened to find one from May of last year that authorized using Isaac Wiles for the review of public records requests through 2018. When I read that, I realized that was a problem because Isaac Wiles has still been used after the end of 2018. I mentioned it to Mr. Bodnar and Mr. Rivers, who were at that meeting. And then I followed up with a phone call to Mark Fowler and discussed it with him. And during that discussion, he said, well, one of the issues is that the auditors will likely have a problem with that, and it could result in a finding for recovery. And I said, a finding for recovery from whom? He said, if they do that, it would be from the board and possibly even from the law firm. I said, well, what can we do about it? And he said, you can pass a resolution retroactively, but that doesn't mean that the auditors wouldn't look at it any more favorably, but perhaps they could, perhaps they would, perhaps they wouldn't. So he also said that we shouldn't be using Isaac Wiles from that point on. That was about 2 weeks ago, until it gets resolved, and we shouldn't pay any more invoices. We have a couple sitting there from then until this gets resolved. So one of the things he and I talked about was having a resolution retroactive to 2019 and taking it through May 31st, which would cover the period during which it's already occurred. And the other possibility is having a resolution retroactive to January 1st for the balance of 2019. So the resolution that I see here is the one that is for the entire year.
Well, I know back when we approved this, and I think, working with Brian Betts has done a great job, working with Isaac Wiles. But back when we originally approved this, I was under the understanding that, being with his expertise in public records, that we were going to use his services in helping getting us to review everything and make sure they're being handled properly and that we've got a good process in place. I'm not sure how, but it seems like every public record we have now, every request we have, seems to go to an attorney. We've got some very basic things going over there right now. I think we can come to a agreement as far as some type of a system or process when a request comes in, what triggers it going to council versus just filling the request.
So well, first of all, we had numerous discussions and Mr. Zetz was per resolution helping us with other items, not just public records. And he's actually not just a public records expert. He's an expert on townships in general. He serves as a legal counsel for numerous cities and townships, and he covers everything. So, but second of all, I would find it very difficult to determine on my own, not being an attorney, to determine how every request should be answered. And I would not feel comfortable determining or relying on a staff member or another elected official to tell me whether this is basically routine. I don't know how you could possibly set the criteria for that.
How do other townships do it?
I have no idea, but this is Orange Township, which is not any other township. And we have our own. I doubt that other townships get. I don't think Berlin Township gets any public records requests. So each township is different, and ours is definitely different.
Trustee Turner, what are your thoughts?
I think some of those basic, simple ones, if they want to see an aggregation contract or our policy, I have no issue with just fulfilling that. To me, that's
Like copies
common
of something
sense.
that exists, like a personal handbook. But when they start to ask questions that are vague, like we want things that have to do with this, or those are the ones that I don't think any of us can judge. If it's just a copy of a personnel handbook, that's different. But many of them are not like that.
I feel that Mr. Bodnar can determine how to handle each one as they come in. I'm comfortable with that.
Me too. He's done a good job so far.
Thank
You,
for
you
your
okay with
trust.
that, Lee?
Thank you for your trust in me.
So are you saying he will make the decision, but not go to an attorney?
No, Lee will make the decision on whether or not it should go to the attorney.
Well, Trustee Turner, you haven't approved any of these up to this point, so are you okay with moving forward?
No, I actually didn't want, I still don't like the idea of using the amount of money that has been spent on public records. I'm not comfortable with that.
And Trustee Matthews?
I will say in that comment though, I've seen a few requests come through and read Zet's response, and I saw where he saw it differently than I did, and it made sense because people, I think Ben Grumbles even sent a request in, and it was like he was reaching for something that we had to almost create, and that's not what that public record should be. It should be actual record that we have. There's been several of those actually, so it's just
Those are the ones.
it was a new way of looking at it.
And those are the ones I would not feel comfortable guessing at. And either in the end, if we end up getting sued for it and we don't have legal counsel, that causes a lot of problems. Whereas you can say that you relied on legal advice to provide these certain documents. Otherwise, you're just kind of guessing.
But I will say probably 8 out of 10 requests don't need to go to him. They're pretty basic, just seeking information.
And our legal fees have spiked.
Oh, yeah.
Well, last year, that's because of 2 lawsuits that were filed, frivolous lawsuits.
So what I'm hearing is the majority of our public records requests probably shouldn't need to go to an
Probably
attorney.
not, no.
Not the simpler ones probably don't need the copies, but the ones where but the problem is you'll get 10 different requests and maybe 5 of them are basic, but the ones that are not basic take quite a long time because they're asking for extensive records. So on an actual percentage basis, 80% of the work is actually probably more difficult than 20%. But it's not just a numbers issue. The ones that are complicated take a long time. The ones that are simple are very easy to respond to.
So I guess by approving this, I look at it as because I wasn't in agreement, and I think the complicated ones could be sent, but for the majority of them, we can handle them ourselves.
Yeah, I think that's what we has been doing, Mr. Bodnar.
Aren't you using him for fire? Or not fire, using him for some,
Not as of yet. We were looking to utilize him for labor-related
oh, okay.
Yeah,
claims, but there has not been any new ones.
we're using him instead of what, Mr. Who, someone retired?
Mr. Wiseman.
Yeah,
I really do like the Paul, who replaced, Mr. Wiseman. He's really good. He does a nice job. Yes.
Mr. Chair, I've been to a lot of conferences, talked to a lot of fiscal officers. We've all been trained in public records, thoroughly trained. We have resources. I don't know of another township that uses outside counsel like we do for that. We have county prosecutor's office that provide very capable civil law attorneys who can handle that small number that needs to go through there. I remain very concerned about the level of legal expenses. I just did a projection, and it's frightening what we're spending.
but so there's a small percentage that need to be reviewed by an attorney. So why is there a great expense if there's a small number that need to be reviewed by an attorney?
Well, I think just about everything's been going to attorney at this point.
But he charges, if he looks at it and answers back quickly, you'll notice on his timesheet, he charges, a couple minutes to look at it if it's basic. He doesn't charge a lot of money. That's not where our legal
I haven't
expenses are
seen
coming
any
from.
that were under $500 for any request.
I thought
A
you.
single request?
I thought
A
you
single
wanted
request.
Isaac Wiles. I thought you hired him
Right.
for public records.
There was issues with as the audit showed, we had some things that I saw that were questioned with public records.
So you're
But-
saying now you don't think we need to
but
retain
I think
him?
we've gotten, well, no, I think we've gotten a lot of things fixed. I think the way things are being handled now, it's in good standing. If something comes up and it needs to be raised, if
Then I
someone,
say use the prosecutor's office.
and from what I've seen in the past, if someone wants a second opinion and there's a rare circumstance, I'm fine with that. But that should be extremely, extremely rare. There's no reason for most public records requests. The county prosecutor's office is free. We have him, Mr. Zetz available for his counsel if needed, but that should be rare to.
Right, we've only been using him. He'll review the ones, but $500 per public records, that's absolutely incorrect. I've seen numerous of his bills, and if it's very simple, he just writes back to Lee and says, go ahead and copy this, and he charges a tenth of an hour for very basic emails. So we don't get charged. That's absolutely false that we get charged $500 per public records request. That's false. It's completely false.
It may be false that we get charged that all the time, but
It is.
I looked through the invoices and because I was curious as to what some simple ones would have cost, and it was 2 or 3 hours. So
Like which simple one are you referring to specifically?
I have to go back and look.
I've looked at many, and he or his assistant sometimes responds, and she charges like $80 an hour. So I've seen a very simple response from them. I think a lot of the work that he's been doing has been for the fire department. I don't even know how many public records requests, but that's false, $500 each.
Well,
That would be outrageous.
We've had public records requests. He's handled them. We've definitely had some expenses as far as exact dollar amount we've incurred.
Yes.
I don't see any reason, like I said, unless it's something very rare, to be going to Mr. Zetz other than the
Yeah.
prosecutor's office.
Since
But I'd like to see something, I think we need to come up with something that states, well, here's what triggers, turning this over to an attorney or.
But every public records request is different. I don't know that you can have a trigger. I do believe Mr. Bodnar can handle it, and if he has a question, he can approach the board on if he has a concern.
But we're in agreement that everything should go to the prosecutor's office.
I'm good with
And
that.
if Mr. Bodnar wishes to send it over to the attorney, he consults the board.
Yeah, he can make that decision. And so, who did you say that would get the findings for recovery? The board, but not the fiscal officer?
No.
But you actually signed all those checks.
all I do is certify that the money is available.
You still sign the checks, though, so you actually, I'm confident, would be liable for that, and as well.
I'm sorry, I'm telling you what our township attorney in the prosecutor's office told me.
Well, you actually signed the check. So did you not check to make sure a resolution was in place before you approved those payments as part of your position?
That's not part of it. All I do, if the board approves a purchase order, I sign the purchase order certifying the money is available in that account, pay it. When the check comes along, I further certify that the money is there, make the check good. I do not approve those purchases.
If you sign the check,
This is
then you're
what-
putting
this
your
is what
name on
Mark
it.
Fowler told
Well,
me,
you
so-
will find out when you read many audits that the person that signs the check and everyone that signs the check is liable. And further, if you're telling me right now that you do not even check to make sure we have a resolution in place before you pay a bill, that's a huge problem. And you did that last year and this year. So you're not going to place the entire blame on any trustees for that when you should have known by checking to make sure that there was a resolution in place before you even signed it or before you provided it.
I'm not gonna respond to that because it doesn't.
No, it's correct.
I make a motion whereas pursuant to RC 309.09B, the Orange Township Board of Trustees may employ attorneys on an annual basis, and whereas the board finds it advisable and necessary to employ the Isaac Wiles Law Firm to advise the board on legal matters, and whereas the board desires to retain Isaac Wiles and execute any documents necessary to effectuate that desire. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Orange Township that Section 1, the board hereby retains the law firm Isaac Wiles to advise the board on legal matters on an annual basis and approves the execution of documents necessary to effectuate this resolution. Section 2, the board authorizes the township administrator to sign any agreement or document required to retain Isaac Wiles 2019 on the condition that any agreement will not exceed
$210 per attorney hour, $85 per paralegal
$210 attorney
hour.
hour and $85 per legal paralegal per billable hour. Section 3, all actual payments to Isaac Wiles must be separately approved by resolution of the board. Section 4, all formal actions of this board concerning and relating to the passage of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of the board, and all deliberations of this board and any of its committees that result in such formal action were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including RC 121.22. Section 5, this resolution shall be in full force and effect immediately upon adoption.
Right. Who wrote this resolution?
Mr. Powell.
So what is this section 3? All actual payments to Isaac Wiles must be separately approved by resolution of the board. We've never done that before. What's the reason for that?
I think all payments with any law firm are separately approved by the board. I don't know.
Usually there's a blanket,
Yeah.
and then if it goes above that, then it needs approved. Actually, I saw that earlier, and I was curious
Yeah,
about
I've never
that.
seen that. But
Isaac Wiles is working in fire, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
because that would mean that you can't pay any bills until we do an actual
So you'd
resolution.
have to wait for a board meeting.
We've never done that. There's a blanket for legal fees that we pay, like from Mr. McCarthy. We don't do a separate.
I believe every single one is, I could be wrong, but I believe every single one has been a separate resolution for legal fees, including Mr. McCarthy.
I don't think so. Mike, you know? Do we always do resolutions?
I am
for
not
that?
aware of a separate resolution. Honestly, going back to the sevens for it.
Yeah, we've done like then and nows maybe when
No, there have been issues with that.
they've done then and nows.
Yes, then and now is absolutely.
We've never done, I would like to strike that section because that's gonna create a paperwork nightmare for all of us. I've never actually seen that before.
Start back from the top.
No, you can just take it out.
Okay, strike section 3. I forget where I was. I will start back.
I thought you read, we're done.
You did, you
read the
seconded
whole
it
thing.
after I said that.
Yeah, second,
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp,
yes?
Mr. Trento,
Yes.
Last item is then and now purchase order. Property and casualty insurance.
Any questions in regards to the property and casualty insurance?
I have none.
I make a motion to authorize the issuance of the then now purchase order to Reinhardt Walters Danner in the amount of $115,376 for 2019-2020 property and casualty insurance coverage.
Second,
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Ms. Knapp,
yes?
Mr. Trento.
Yes.
That's all I have, members of the board, thank you.
Thank you. Under old business, table to item A, discussion and possible action regarding new plow truck purchase.
Real quick, review, the truck body is available through the ODOT Cooperative Purchasing Program. That's where we got our estimate for that. And I sent all the documents to Attorney Fowler. The plow package and the dump bed, the spreader, the box, all come from a separate source, that we actually call it Sourcewell. It's also a cooperative purchasing agency, but that's been the hang. Mr. Fowler has some questions about Sourcewell, making sure that it is, legit cooperative purchasing agency that we can buy through without having to bid out. So I did receive some additional information today, and forwarded that on to Attorney Fowler. I thought I had it one and today, so we're still working on the truck. Thank you.
Thank you. Update regarding renovations at Township Hall.
No update at this time, please table till next meeting.
Township website?
Yes, last Tuesday, there was a kickoff meeting held, in the Township Hall here with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 representatives, 9, counting me, representatives of the Township, Brenda Church, Mary Ann, Nancy, Patty, Amanda, Bill, Michelle, and Jeff all attended. We started the ball rolling, earlier today. Information was sent to Civic Plus, that was, requested through that kickoff meeting. We're moving forward. Unfortunately, which isn't really conducive to what we would like, this entire process will take 6 to 7 months. But we're moving forward. We're closer today to the end than we were last week,
It would take 6 to 7 months until it's complete?
until it's complete.
Wow.
Thank you. Update, discussion regarding the Township Records Commission meeting.
I'd ask that to be tabled as well.
That's tabled. Which takes us to new business. I believe, Trustee Knapp, you asked for a request to County Prosecutor Office.
Yes. I would like to get advice and a formal, the fiscal officer has stated that he received advice regarding the ACH policy and the method in which we are processing ACH transactions, and I would like the board to also receive that same legal advice. So I would like to request that we get our own advice and a formal opinion on how ACH transactions themselves are processed and who approves them and when, and how that needs to, how that will conform or not conform with Ohio Revised Code.
Well, I think when we had that discussion, then Mr. Fowler asked for trustees to reach out and give an opinion to contact him as far as going forward.
No, he said he was going to come back with a new resolution.
Yes.
Wasn't it a resolution?
Yes, but that for some reason.
He didn't ask for us to reach out.
Well, I would think if you want to reach out and contact him and discuss it with him, that wouldn't be an issue.
No,
But technically, in the past, they like a board decision in order to form an opinion for us. So they like a consensus. Is that correct, Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not necessarily always required for like individual items, but
Well, I think this was going to be on, well, it was on this table, obviously, but I don't see.
so I would like to make a motion that the board requests a submits a formal request for advice regarding how the township should process ACH transactions, including the timing of the trustees approving it, whether that's before or after the payment is actually made, and at what time the fiscal officer should be making the payment, and to ensure that the way we're doing that does conform to Ohio Revised Code.
Are we reaching back out to Mark Fowler?
To the prosecutor's office, yes.
Okay. I mean, he's already been working. I'm not quite sure.
Do you have a copy of that, of the opinion that Mr. Mayor has supposedly received? Did you get a copy of that?
The backup, we have all. I'm just saying, wouldn't we just ask him if he wants to give his own opinion to us as far as where this is at? It sounds like it's been pretty, he presented, he was here, So I
Well,
would
that's not
think,
entirely true because at the last meeting, it was it was opined that we could make these payments at a certain time point, and I don't think that's correct. So I would like to ask for our own.
but he was here to support the policy, so I'm
So the
confused.
policy is very vague. It actually really says nothing. It simply says that we're going to abide by the credit card policy. If you read it, you'll notice that there's actually nothing at all about the timing of the payments. It doesn't state at what point they can be made, whether or not they can be made after a payment has been issued or before. None of that was included in that policy.
Well, I know when he was here, he said each of us could reach out to speak with him, so I would recommend you contact Mr. Fowler.
Well, I would
discuss it
like
with him.
to, well, I did
think
discuss it,
we're
and this was
complicating
this was his recommendation, specifically for Mr. Fowler.
I'd like to talk to him before with that.
Trustee Trent? Because I do not believe that the way
Mr.
they're being,
Fowler volunteered to help get the additional steps added to the policy. This will be placed on the next agenda.
Yeah, so why wouldn't you reach out to him and speak to him?
But this was.
I did speak to him last week.
This was a month ago.
Yes, I thought it was supposed to be on the agenda for tonight. Mr. Bodnar, was it supposed to be on the agenda for tonight?
It was removed at the last meeting.
Right,
I
it
don't
was.
think There was no
Okay.
update.
Well, this is,
Because
so I
that
did
was-
call Mr. Fowler, reach out to him, and he said that in order to get all this solidified and make sure that everyone's on the same page, the board should specifically request this from him.
So why don't we just have him come into the next meeting and we'll.
What's your
start
objection?
conversation?
So second, I'll second it, and then he can form an opinion, and we'll all be on the same page.
Exactly. No more he said, she said, they said.
It's always a good
Trustee-
idea to.
Trustee Trino seconded the motion. Yeah, it's always a good idea to have us all, I mean, these phone calls and people coming in and saying one thing, something else being said to somebody else, and it's just not really working in this
So-
case.
The motion was, I guess it's been recorded, because there was a lot said, I'm not sure exactly what the motion said.
So you would start with.
We'll have to go by what the recording was, and you were seconding that motion.
Right, so you take the vote starting with Ms. Knapp.
Ms. Knapp,
Yes?
Ms. Franco,
Yes.
Mr. Rivers,
Yeah, I'm still confused by what's being asked, and this was added back to the agenda at last minute, so no.
We're just simply asking that, making sure that what we're doing is legal and our payments are being processed correctly, because we don't have any official guidance on that from the
Next
prosecutor's
item
office.
was discussion regarding minutes. I think we thoroughly covered that earlier.
No, that's incorrect. I added this item to the agenda. We've had discussions with personnel here, and by law, it's the fiscal officer's responsibility to do and to keep the minutes. And I would like to recommend that we go ahead and remove that duty from the person currently doing that and give those responsibilities back to Mr. Mayor so he can perform those as part of his duties. So the employee that's doing the minutes, she's kind of been caught in between. The minutes are very exhausting, and I would like to see her doing some additional duties for the trustees that do not involve the minutes.
So not have Mary Ann do the minutes?
Yes.
Right.
To remove from that.
that doesn't require a resolution, if that's what Mr. Bodnar would want to have happen. He and I could have a discussion about it, and we rearrange it and figure out how to make it happen. But legally, it is the fiscal officer's responsibility. Because of the way things were here in the past, it happened that a staff member ended up doing a lot of that. But, I mean, I don't think it needs a resolution, it's already the law. But it's just a matter of how things have been worked out here, and I'd be happy to work with Mr. Bodnar to make that transition.
Mr. Gardner, are you comfortable with that?
I am.
Okay, good. And they'll still be subject to approval by the trustees.
Okay, next item was the electric aggregate.
The gas.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So this has kind of been thrown at us without a whole lot of discussion. I know a small portion of the township, I'm even in Columbia, gas. I don't, he sent that, resolution to us via email today. Is that even something that we want to consider? He's asking us to put it on the ballot. That's kind of a major decision being just thrown out there.
Well, and I did talk to him extensively about it last week. I get it's just as putting it on the ballot, and then we do, or it's just kind of activating it. So once it's on the ballot, we can choose later to seek a new rate, a new aggregation rate. We don't have. This is just giving us the opportunity next year to do it.
So not this November?
It would be on the ballot now, but he would begin next year after that.
Okay.
So this doesn't set rates. In fact, if we did find out that 2,000 people have Columbia Gas, he said 4 to 4,500 is what he told me. But if we did decide we didn't want to go ahead with it next year, then we wouldn't have to. It would give us the ability to if we choose to. So I'm okay with it as long as it's worded. Did anyone review the resolution? Mike, did you review it? As long as the resolution's okay. But it would require board action to do anything further.
So we would table that and have it at another meeting, is that correct?
Or if it's, Mike, were you able to review it?
Yes, I
Or is
did
it
review
not-
it, and then it's all sorts of excitement from the chair and Mr. Brodeur from the account. Statutorily, I think it's adequate for the task at hand. This is simply asking the Board of Elections to put the issue on the ballot and all necessary action to get it there. It'll do it.
Okay, is it sufficient in your opinion?
Well, I don't know if it's been reviewed by council for the Board of Elections, I can't say that, but, the issue seems to be stated well. So, now it's just a question really, do you want to do it? If you do, it's got to be filed with the Board of Elections, it'll be reviewed up there. And, you're not even renewed the 90 days yet, but again, if you're going to do it, I'd suggest you do it sooner than later. So in case there are any issues, you can resolve.
Yeah, I would suggest doing it today if you
Whether
are
you're doing
okay
it or
with
not.
the language.
Close.
It just gives us, we can say no later, but I think if there's a problem that occurs later, it's better to do it sooner rather than later.
I'm positive for.
Are you okay with it?
I make the motion whereas the Ohio legislature enacted chapter 4929 Ohio Revised Code, which authorized legislative authorities, municipal corporations, townships, and unincorporated areas of the county to aggregate retail natural gas loads located within the respective jurisdictions and to enter into service agreements to facilitate the purchase and sale of the service for the retail natural gas loads, and whereas such legislative authorities can exercise their authority individually or jointly with any such legislative authorities, and whereas governmental aggregation provides an opportunity for residential and small business consumers to participate collectively in the potential benefits of natural gas service deregulation through lower natural gas rates, which would not otherwise be available to those circumstances individually. And whereas the Board of Trustees of Orange Township seeks to establish a governmental aggregation program with opt-out provisions pursuant to section 4929.26 Ohio Revised Code for the residents, businesses, and other natural gas consumers within the unincorporated area of the township, may be in conjunction with any other legislative authorities in the state of Ohio as permitted by law. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Trustees of Orange Township, Delaware County, Ohio, that section 1, the board finds and determines that it is in the best interest of the unincorporated areas of the township, its residents, businesses, and other retail natural gas consumers located within unincorporated areas of the township to establish an aggregation program within the unincorporated areas of the township, provided that the aggregation program is approved by the electors of the township pursuant to section 2 of this resolution. The board is hereby authorized to automatically aggregate in accordance with section 4929.26 Ohio Revised Code the retail natural gas loads located within the unincorporated areas of the township, and for that purpose to enter into service agreements to facilitate for those loads the purchase and sale of natural gas service. The board may exercise such authority jointly with any other political subdivision of the state of Ohio, the full extent permitted by law, which may include use of an energy broker consultant aggregator, so long as the broker consultant aggregator is certified by the Public Utilities Commission of Ohio. The aggregation, subject to section 4929.26A2A and B Ohio Revised Code, and the opt-out rights described in section 3 of this resolution will occur automatically for the retail natural gas loads located within the unincorporated areas of the township for which there is a choice of supplier. A rule or order has been adopted or issued under Chapter 4905 Ohio Revised Code, or an exemption granted under sections 4929.04 to 4929.08 Ohio Revised Code. Section 2, the Board of Elections of Delaware County is hereby directed to submit the following question to electors of the unincorporated areas of the township at the election on November 5th, 2019. Shall the Board of Trustees of Orange Township have the authority to aggregate the retail natural gas loads located within the unincorporated areas of the township and for which there is a choice of supplier in that service, and for that purpose, enter into services agreements to facilitate for those loads the sale and purchase of natural gas service, such aggregation to occur automatically except where any person elects to opt out, in accordance with section 4929.26 of the Ohio Revised Code and resolution number
We have blank right now.
adopted by the Board of Trustees.
Second.
Oh, no, sorry. Still got more to go. Fiscal officer of this board is instructed to immediately file a certified copy of this resolution and the proposed form of the ballot question at the Delaware County Board of Elections not less than 90 days prior to the election to be held November 5th, 2018. The aggregation program shall not take effect unless approved by the majority of the electors voting upon this resolution, and the aggregation program provided for herein at the election held pursuant to section 2 and section 4929.26 Ohio Revised Code. Section 3, upon approval of the majority of the electors voting at the election provided for in section 2 of this resolution, this board, individually or jointly with any other political subdivision, may develop a plan of operation and governance for the aggregation program. Before adopting such plan, this board shall hold at least 2 public hearings on the plan. Before the first hearing, notice of the hearing shall be published once a week for 2 consecutive weeks in a newspaper or general circulation in the unincorporated areas of the township. The notice shall summarize the plan and state the date, time, and place of each hearing. No plan adopted by this board shall aggregate any retail natural gas load within the unincorporated areas of the township unless it in advance clearly discloses to the person whose retail natural gas load is to be so aggregated that the person will be enrolled automatically in the aggregation program and will remain so enrolled unless the person permanently affects by a stated procedure not to be so enrolled. Disclosure shall state prominently the rates, charges, and other terms and conditions of enrollment. Stated procedure shall allow any person enrolled in the aggregation program the opportunity to opt out of the program at least every 2 years, without paying a switching fee. Any such person who opts out of the aggregation program pursuant to the stated procedure shall default to the natural gas company providing distribution service for the person's retail natural gas load until the person chooses an alternate supplier. Section 4, it is hereby found and determined that all formal actions of this board concerning and related to the passage of this resolution were adopted in an open meeting of this board, and that the deliberations of this board and any of its committees that resolved in such formal actions were in meetings open to the public in compliance with all legal requirements, including section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code.
Mr. Mayor, are you in a position right now to give it a number, this resolution?
No, I'm not.
I did not think so, but it's the intent of the board that number will be such as is assigned by Mr. Mayor in that blank on page 2.
Yes.
Mike, I assume that, it's only gonna show up on the ballot to those people who have Columbia gas?
I certainly hope so.
I hope so too. That would cause a lot of confusion with the residents
Because
who
all
have
kinds of
suburban.
chaos. I mean, yeah. I did, in the course of talking today about Constellation and Capital Energy, also Mr. Belcastro brought this up. And apparently, once the issue is on the ballot, or you approve of that, the gas company will make available its customer list for their use.
Okay, so then we can tell. But, so you're,
I've never been through it, but it's very.
So Lee, we
confident.
probably wanna make sure that that's
No,
the
absolutely.
case, yeah.
because,
We're on suburban, you're on.
but it's still, are you saying, you're saying at the ballot? Is that possible to separate it out? I still think it would be a township-wide
Well, that's why I
vote.
think the customer list.
Well, if you think about it, the
But
parks
maybe-
levy doesn't show up for those that, don't pay it.
It's,
Like-
it's pretty much precinct by precinct, I think, is the only way you can do it. It's the only way the board
Yeah,
will.
I think it would end up being a township-wide, vote regardless, because there's no way to really subject some people and not other people. It would have to be for the whole township. Because we're making a decision for the entire township or whether or not we want to pursue aggregation.
I hear what you're saying.
And so what if it changed and all of a sudden Suburban Gas was no longer and Columbia Gas took over? That's not gonna happen, but in theory, I think that it would be the entire township, and so people could, in theory,
Well,
everyone could
it's
vote
It's
it
really
down.
gonna cause
No,
confusion
as
though.
as you two are talking, I think. that
They're gonna want the
more and more, you
aggregation,
may
but they
be
have
correct.
suburban.
Then you're gonna have.
I think we could.
Well, they'll vote they could vote yes or no on it, and at the end of the day, we would need to inform them that it's not for them, but they could have a huge impact if there's more of those on the actual ballot issue, so we'd have to make sure we educate them. I don't think it can be separated. Oh, Mr. Betts, do you have an opinion?
If you could give me just a brief moment. Thank you. No problem. State your name, please.
Christopher Batts, Assistant Prosecuting Attorney with the Delaware County Prosecuting Attorney's Office. I didn't come particularly to address this issue tonight, but having been through this process with several townships, both in electric and natural gas aggregation, I've had an opportunity to look at both statutes for the electric and natural gas. They're pretty comparable. They're pretty much the same. My recollection, without having it in front of me, is that it does apply to the entire township as far as the election is concerned. It doesn't parse it out by precinct or in any other way. I think it's kind of an all or nothing. It's all of the township or not.
Yeah.
That's my recollection. Again, not having come
That would
prepared to
make
speak
sense.
about it, but that's my recollection of thinking back on the statute.
That would make sense, because I don't know I don't think there's any provision to divvy people out by their service provider. It just doesn't seem.
I don't recollect anything like that
Yeah.
in the statute, to be perfectly honest with you.
So then in theory, the people, if they chose to not, that they don't want to do the aggregation, even though they won't be affected, they could, in theory, shoot it down. So we have to educate them to make sure that they know it doesn't really matter to them. That's a good point you brought up. I didn't think of
I'm
that.
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your conversation about it, but I thought maybe
No,
I
thank you.
could
We
add
weren't sure.
something to it. So,
Oh, thank you.
sure.
So I'm still okay with it, but we'd have to educate. Once we get the customer list, that should help clear it out. I would hate to have those people sink it for the other
I think
people.
it is gonna cause some confusion though. It will.
But once we have the list, I bet Scott could send something out, to the non-AEP or non-suburban, Columbia Gas. Good point.
A second.
Did you second
I
it?
second it.
Are we ready? Ms. Rivers?
Yes.
Ms. Taranto?
Yes.
Ms. Knapp?
Yes.
I make the motion to go into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against a public employee, official, licensed or regulated individual unless a public employee, official, licensee, or regulated individual requests a public hearing. Invited to attend are Mr. Bodnar and Mr. McCarthy.
Second.
If I could interrupt for just a second, again, I apologize. I think Mr. McCarthy is familiar with the statute too, the way that the statute reads to go into executive session, that you have to spell out one of the reasons why you go into an executive session that's in that laundry list.
You should limit it to the portion that's out.
So in the past, people would just recite everything, say it's for personnel,
Yeah, I remember those days.
and now you have to parse it out. The statute actually says you have to say
Oh,
what the
whether
purpose is.
it's.
You don't have to name a name of any
Yeah,
person or
sure.
anything like that.
Yeah, actually, that one is really overly broad. So we should actually select from that.
And I'm not exactly sure what you're going to executive session for, but you need to parse it out.
I would, ask the board to, consider, possible discipline.
Wait. So, what about employment? Because are we discussing employment?
You can choose more than one in the
Oh,
list.
okay.
You just have to
Employment,
focus
Yeah,
it
you
down.
can-
You can't say them all.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you could if actually.
You could if it covered all of those things, but it's likely
50
not.
different employees.
Employment discipline would cover.
Make a
employment,
motion to the
Discipline.
employment or dismissal of, public employee or official.
Do we have to parse it out by employee, official, all that kind of stuff?
If you're going in for some sort of a disciplinary action, I think it would be to consider the appointment, or excuse me, to consider the employment dismissal or discipline of a public employee or official, or the investigation of charges or complaints against them, public employee or official.
So I consider the employment discipline of a public employee,
Or official.
or official, license regulated, request to public.
Wait, do you want?
I don't think that would.
Chris, look at the trouble you just caused.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I'm
Chris.
sorry, I didn't mean to do it. I'm sorry.
I appreciate it.
To consider the employment discipline of a public employee.
Is that good? Wait, what about the charges? Or we're not doing the investigation of charges or
If you're
complaints?
not doing charges, then you can leave that
Right?
part out.
Yeah, okay, good.
To consider the
Wait, so say it one more
To
time just for
consider-
Mary Ann or whoever's doing
To
it.
consider employment discipline of a public employee.
Employment or discipline of a public employee. Okay, and then who's invited again?
Mr. McCarthy and Mr. Bogdan.
Oh, second? I second, yeah.
Mr. Rivers,
Yes.
Knapp,
Yes?
Mr. Mitchell,
Yes. Are we just doing one executive session, Jen?
Yeah.
And members of the board, we are still live and shut off the lights.
I apologize. And I apologize for being late. For whatever reason, I had it in my mind that I started at 7, you know.
Oh, it used to start at 7 and then
So-
it changed. What are you here for? Hi.
I
Nice
just
to see
came
you.
down, we did some switching around
Mhm.
of who's gonna be working on who,
Mhm.
and I'm gonna be back working with Orange Township.
Very good.
So Mark's gonna finish up some of the projects he's already working
Okay,
on.
and you're